As you maybe already noticed, the title of the presentation is different than in agenda, which of course was to confuse you and to draw your attention. And just kidding. Yes, basically, I just forgot to tell Medline on time that we forged this fancy and neat title, which is much better than this one boring which we have in the agenda. But basically, it's the same. Yes, so please do not spend a lot of time thinking about it. So let's go on. Just a moment. So you see my screen, I suppose. And first, to set the stage, yes. So what we mean by data governance? Everybody is talking about data governance, data management, and is it the same, or this is something else, or is the one subset of another? So I will use, for the rest of my presentation, I will use the understanding which comes from data management body of knowledge. So the data governance, the red arrow, it is a process of ensuring data is managed. So it's like an oversight. And while the data management comprises all the daily activities, the business as usual execution part. Of course, they are not exclusive. So they are overlapping, and that's also in our practice more or less evident. Then a bit of organizational context. So currently in StepStone, we are in the process of joining businesses. Total Jobs Group is joining with StepStone CE. Now the Total Jobs Group has a name StepStone UK, but historically it was completely different. So both are groups of companies, and both are supported by two huge operational systems with operational databases comprising a lot of data. This is profiles, this is listings. So there are dozens of millions of records, and just to give you order of magnitude, about thousands of tables in every operational database and thousands of really needed operational tables. In future, we want to support both markets in a unified way. That, of course, means changes in business, but that also means changes in IT. We, as IT, want to support the business in unified ways. So we want to build components which are used on both. I will say both markets. Actually, it's more markets, yes. But those two parts which were joined together, yes. Markets. There is more markets because StepStone CE is supporting 8 countries, and while the UK is also supporting a few others like Ireland. We want to distribute responsibility as all of that becomes very huge, and we want to be scalable as everybody right now. We want to distribute responsibility. We want to empower development teams. We implement a producer-consumer model. So there will be data producers and data consumers. Sometimes one is both. So sometimes producers are also consumers, and vice versa. But what we want to do is that producers are owning the data and access methods. Yes, so we will distribute. We will distribute the ownership. There will be no central team owning the data. There will be the ownership distributed. That means, of course, smaller data stores. If we want to give to people something to have this on their own, that has to be smaller. That's quite obvious. And of course, there will be a transition period. So we will have to leave, and we have to take into account that we cannot just stop the business and transform everything for a year. Yes, so we have to leave and to join the old world with the new world at the same time. This approach has several advantages, but also has a lot of risks associated. So we decided to reduce those risks. We want to introduce a framework, and the data governance is a tool for that. So the data governance will deliver and will form a framework which will be used by the teams who do the transformation. This is just kind of one of a lifetime chance to change things, yes, because a lot of things will be changed, and the central architecture team will will be very much involved in all of those changes. So we want to show how the good looks like in this case. We start small. We decided to start small. I will elaborate a bit more later when talking about the history, but we do not think the huge holistic approach will be good in this respect. So we decided to start small, iteratively. That's why we talk about agile data governance. Everyone wants to be agile right now, but we really are. Yes, so we are doing it in an agile way. In phase one, we are supporting, as I already mentioned, this main part is the data tier transformation. So we do not try to, for example, to take inventory of all databases we have, and there is a lot, of course. We just want to do properly the part of the data tier transformation. We do a lot of groundwork also. We have built a community. I will call it a team, and you see in the presentations that I am representing here the Lighthouse team. The Lighthouse team is the central team, but basically it's a community. Those are not people who are my reportees. Those are people from around of the organization, and they are working here on the data governance on voluntary basis. We forged the concept of data ambassadors. So data ambassadors will be people who will know everything about the data governance rules and needs. So they will be involved somehow in data governance, but mainly in the data management part. They will be helping teams in understanding the data governance. We have done some POCs to see how we can technically implement our concepts, and we are finishing the automation of data discovery. We have already, this is not new, so we have already data discovery implemented, but only for some kinds of data stores. So we are extending that. For the organization part, I was also add that what you see in this blue box at the top. This is very important to emphasize that we need an ownership for data. So this is not the data governance and even the data catalog itself. It's not about tooling. The tooling is a simple thing. If we have time, I can tell you at the end what tools are we using. But in the main part of my presentation, I will not focus on tooling because I think that's the simplest part. What is important is the organizational change and the mindset change. This is really a hard part, really. So we need the owners for data, and this is not easy. Yes, to find people who will be owners, and it is not even easy to explain people what means to be an owner. So we will have a common metadata repository for the new data tier transformation and design and documenting standards. We are somewhere in between of this phase, so more or less those things are already done. But returning to being agile, yes, so we want to reuse as much as we can. We want to minimize loss. So it's probably the same in your organization. So a lot of content exists, yes, even if you do not have formal data governance, even if you do not have a central data catalog. That does not mean that you do not have the knowledge which can be used. And this is one of our points of focus. So reuse what we have. Sometimes it is difficult to find, sometimes it is inconsistent, but a lot of things can be used. Of course, it makes our tasks more complex, because it's much easier to just create an Excel file and say, everybody, hey man, put metadata here. But of course, looking from the quality of the content, I think we will be better off if we really use. So people will not be angry that they have to do things twice. So we are integrating and reusing existing in-company resources. Those are config files, those are AWS Glue definitions. We have an Ifrit service repository. There is a lot of information in MS SQL extended properties. We have also outcomes of GDPR data audit, and all of that we want to reuse, and some of that is already incorporated. We want also to automate as much as we can, but we have to remember that not everything can be automated. So that's one of the things which you often hear from the software providers. So if you talk about any data catalog tool, you will hear that, well, yes, this is a very fancy tool. It will just read your databases and tell you everything about it. Nope, it will not work this way. So data discovery is quite a simple part, but what is important is that you will have to understand this data. And that's not so easy. It's a bit tricky. And even if if AI can understand some things, it's not a lot. So at the end, it has all to be reviewed by a man. And there are things which AI will never do, like security levels. There's something which business has to decide. Yes, so the data owner has to decide how he wants to secure the data, balancing the business value and the risk. And that's something which we'll expect, for example, from data owners. So, to make it more understandable for people, we force a term of data marketplace. What means data marketplace? So we have a central team which is governing this marketplace, and the marketplace is the place where you go if you need data, or if you want to create new data. You should check first if this data exists in company. This is quite a common issue, that people are creating a lot of data which actually exists. And why they are doing that? Because they do not know how to check if it exists. And in case of central database, it's a bit easier because many people, who is modifying this data typically has access to the database and for example, by the name, can check if there exists a table called candidate, for example. But if you have distributed data storages, people may even not know that a data store exists. Yes, and it's not so easy to find it. We are already a huge organization. We have like 60 or 70 development teams. So it's not just a thing that you can go to the kitchen and ask, man, have you candidate data? Yes, and that's why we need a scalable approach. So we wanted to have information, all metadata in one central place. That does not mean that every metadata source has to be the same. That's what I discussed 2 slides before. Yes, we can integrate the data from various sources, but for the consumers, it should be one place to go. And that's the basic part of this concept. We are here, one remark, we are here talking about data at rest mostly, because currently we found it is the easiest part. But that does not mean that we are, in scope of the data marketplace is only data at rest. We also think about data transfer and also the APIs, events, such things also are covered by this concept. So ideally, consumers can check if, for example, candidate data exists somewhere and what API or event he can use to access the data. Producers are responsible, of course, for all these descriptions, for delivering all this information, and the data ambassadors, which I already mentioned before, are somewhere in between. So those are people from verticals. Maybe you are more familiar with the tribe concept, yes? So the vertical is kind of like a tribe, yes? So it's a group of development teams. And currently we put most of the responsibility on verticals, not on development teams itself, because teams seem to be too small and we want to be flexible, so teams can be sent to other tasks. That's why it's on the vertical. So on the vertical level, we have some data ambassadors. Those are people who are not involved in all activity of this central small team, but they should have the knowledge so they can help producers. Why we need those data ambassadors? Why we cannot just use the resources of the central team? So we want to make central teams small, and we discovered that this approach is not scalable enough. So we have a lot of questions from producers. We observe that the transfer of the information is difficult. So we are producing bulletins, blogs, a lot of communication, even movies. But people, Yeah, people just do not watch it, and even if they watch, they do not understand. They have a lot of questions, and that's why we really need somebody who is more scalable in the concept. So, and that's one reason. And another one is that we also need people who are hands-on with teams on the daily work, so they can provide us with the team's requirements. All in all, it's for the people, yes? So we are not producing something for the central team. We are doing it for the sake of consumers and producers, yes? Just for them to use that. And also that's why we need data ambassadors who can express the needs of those. They are on the diagram, they are on the producer's side, but actually they are representing also consumers. Okay, so now there is a slide which is rather for handhelds, so if somebody is not able to watch, he can read the slide, but I have already told everything about that. And that's a timeline, yes? So you can take a look on timeline, how it looked in the past, yes? How it originated. So first approach to the data governance at StepStone Group, it was long in the past. I even do not remember when it was. It was quite holistic in concept. So they wanted to create the generic theory of everything. And of course, as you can imagine, it failed and was long forgotten until GDPR came into play. And then everybody realized that we really should know where we have the data, especially the personal data, but not only. So the data audit was one of the really crucial points, of this history. During the data audit, we created the tools which we are still using. So this data catalog, data dictionary, but also process dictionary, data categorization. We created like 200 of data categories. Actually, you may even be involved in that because that was on the group level. But I think everybody already forgotten about that. So we created a lot of categories which we are using till now, and tools. And then some time has passed, and then in the beginning of this year, we started the creation of the unified solution for StepStone UK and StepStone CE. We started the platform harmonization program, and then we realized that during so huge data tier transformation, we need this data governance, and we also have a chance to improve some things. So we started to think about the scope. We aligned with stakeholders. That was like a month or two of discussions, what it means, what data governance means, what everybody knows, what everybody wants from that. And that finished with establishing this lighthouse team. And incepting, we call this inception. I don't know if you are familiar with this term, but this is a term used in software development process in StepStone UK, adopted also for StepStone CE right now for joint forces. We call it joint forces. We are now all together. And this term means kind of kickoff meeting when we discuss the goals, scope, outcomes, success criteria, risks, and such things. Yes. So we have incepted the phase one of data governance in July this year. And we are now finishing this phase. I can say more or less confidently that we will do most of the things which we had in phase one, but of course not everything. Yes, some things, especially external dependencies out of the team, they are somehow risky. So this is common data dictionary for all the new data tier data stores. We have data owners for all new data, also for the transformed data. So for old data, but transformed to new data stores. We have nominated data ambassadors, and we are starting onboarding them. We have also created the tooling we wanted, and a lot of POCs. So a lot of tooling work will remain in phase two. I don't know what will be in phase two, right? But what I would expect is that we will prepare the fancy marketplace UI, which we do not have right now. So we have the metadata storage, but we do not have we have a UI for that, but it's not, it's not appealing. I would expect further automation work and a focus on data in transfer, which is a bit important in the modern world. And not only the data at rest. And that's basically what I had for today.